Nintendo has also considered making a Zelda spin-off starring Sheik, which is something that I've wanted to see for a long time. I know many of others have had the idea as well. In an interview with Game Rant, Miyamoto himself said the dev team has discussed how it might be cool to have Sheik as the protagonist, and he specifically said it's not an impossibility. Same goes for a Princess Zelda spin-off game, but it sounds like Sheik is who they've really seriously been considering.
Yeah, and we've actually heard this Sheik rumor before, I believe with ties to possibly Retro Studios. I heard something about that surface a few years ago. But I think this might be the first time that someone sort of high up at Nintendo has actually commented on it and confirmed that at least the idea was being tossed around.
Yeah, and that's super exciting for me because, a sort of, action stealth kind of game with Sheik. I would love to explore what Sheik is doing in the 7 years that Link is away. Maybe sort of see her grow up from young Princess Zelda to the older Princess Zelda that we see in Ocarina of Time. That would be really, really cool to explore a Hyrule without Link. And I don't know, I think there's so much story potential that's untapped there, and I think there is a lot of really interesting gameplay, stealth-wise, combat-wise, that they could make out of a character like Sheik.
Well, and this would also be a great time to do it because Breath of the Wild clearly is centered around Sheikah culture and Sheikah lore and things like that. So to go from that to then introduce a spin-off game that digs even further into it would be outstanding. And we've already seen with Hyrule Warriors that you can spin off a Zelda game into, a new style and add some new characters, and people will eat it right up.
Totally.
So, also in Miyamoto's answer here, in discussing the possibility of Zelda getting her own spin-off game, he says something that sort of contradicts what Aonuma had said earlier. Because, like Alex said, Aonuma, he said, if we're going to do a game with a female protagonist, it has to be Zelda. Whereas Miyamoto said in a later interview, in the classic games in the series, meaning the main series games as opposed to spin-offs, in the classic games in the series, Link is the hero, and that will not change.
Yeah.
So I kind of imagine there's a disconnect here just because Miyamoto hasn't been as hands-on with the series over the past couple years. So maybe Aonuma is open to the idea of a Zelda spin-off, but that's not actually something that's been discussed in an official capacity, and Shigeru Miyamoto didn't get that memo that there was interest in that.
Yeah.
So, I think the fact that they're even considering full-fledged Zelda spin-offs is really encouraging, because they've had such a hard time settling on a gameplay style that they think that they're really confident in, and that they think will be a good framework for the future. And it feels like with Breath of the Wild, they've achieved that. But at the same time, there are lots of other sort of Zelda traditions that they're discarding to make Breath of the Wild happen. And I wonder if some of those might be picked up in Zelda spin-offs.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean, I wonder if maybe there could be a game starring Zelda that plays a little bit more traditionally like the older Zelda games, where you've got sort of, you cut grass and you get hearts and rupees and stuff. You've got, a more linear sort of dungeon structure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I think you guys are missing the real potential here. AAA Tingle game.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I was thinking Groose, but you know what? I would settle for that.
Yeah, and that'll be another game in the Wind Waker style.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
Gotta keep the styles going.
Yeah, that actually could be a really interesting way that they could sort of delineate each of the different styles of games and just sort of for example, I don't know if this is an actual suggestion I might have, but for example, let Tingle sort of inherit the cel-shaded Wind Waker art style for future games. Let Zelda inherit the sort of maybe, Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess sort of aesthetic. That could be really neat.
Yeah, I think spin-offs are definitely an appropriate mechanism for that. The series is just so schizophrenic that it seems like that's the best way to mediate all these different styles.
Hello everybody, thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week clip, NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.